If you can think in English and stop translating, then you can answer questions more fluently and participate in conversations more easily. Let's find out how to do it. By the way, if you want to build up your fluency, check out my fluency course on Udemy. It'll help you naturally use your grammar, improve your pronunciation, and help really build your fluency so you can move from being a struggling English student to a successful English speaker. Now then, talking about thinking in English. It's a challenge for some students, right? And I think this is because in many schools across the world, students are taught with what we call the grammar translation method, right? We're taught to translate. You can start thinking in English, then you can really answer questions more easily. And in IELTS speaking, that's really important, right? So in this video, I'm going to show you 7 smart ways that you can start thinking in English. Let's begin. So I would say the first step to thinking in English is to surround yourself with English. Now, that does not mean you have to go and live or visit an English-speaking country. Although it's great if you can, you don't have to. No, you can do this in your own home by giving yourself even just 10 minutes a day of English. And you can build up to 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day, build up slowly. And it's important to see this English time as fun and enjoyable, not study time, right? So I'm talking about things like listening to podcasts, listening to the internet radio, listening to songs, reading some books, novels, magazines, blogs, things that you like, maybe watching TV series or films in English, right? But having this moment when you are surrounded in English. And during this moment, there are 3 things you can do, right? First of all, you can listen passively. That's fine. Secondly, you can repeat words that you hear or see. Third, you can repeat phrases that you hear or see, right? Now, listening passively is great, because when you listen passively, you're reducing the stress and the pressure, and we know from research this can help us learn more deeply. Repeating words and phrases is also fantastic, because then you're starting to activate the vocabulary, which means you can start to use it more fluently. Okay, the next one is to only use words that you already know. So when speaking in English, sometimes students want to express an idea, but they lack the vocabulary. So they go to a dictionary and they look up the word, or they ask somebody the translation, right? Now, if you come across an idea you want to express, but you lack the vocabulary when speaking, there are 2 things you can do. Not 2 things you can do. Number 1, you can either try and find a way round it, to say it in another way, paraphrase it, essential for IELTS speaking, right? Or, number 2, is that you can let the idea go. Say something else. Stay with the words that you know. Right, the next one is to start small and build up. So it's probably very hard to try and think in English the whole day long, right? Not easy at all. So don't think big. Start small. Just start even thinking single words in English, right? So a common technique is to look at a picture, and as you look at the picture, you think of the things that you see. Try this. Have a look at this picture and just don't speak. Just think one word of the different things you can see. You can use a picture, but probably more natural is just to look around you and describe the things that you see in your head, right? So, you know, you're queuing in the bank and you look around and you go, bank, Q, security guard, gun, lights, camera, noisy. If you're not comfortable talking to yourself outdoors, just do these at home. So for example, in the morning, you could talk about your routine for the day or your plan for the day. Ooh. Next is to write in English. So when it comes to thinking in English, I think the active skill of writing complements the active skill of speaking in helping you create this English environment, or what I called English moments throughout your day that will help you think in English. Now, of course, the way that we speak and write are very different, right? And I do not encourage you to speak the way you write. They are two separate forms of communication. However, there is some research that suggests that writing and speaking are connected and actually influence each other. So far, we've been looking at thinking in English to yourself, talking to yourself, writing notes to yourself. It's all about you, right? Next is to practice with others, because you need to be able to think in English when you're communicating with other people as well. So I think it's really important to practice speaking with others, and as you're doing that, to practice this thinking in English as you're doing it, right? In fact, the more you engage in conversations in English with your teacher, friends, students, colleagues, the more you're going to have the chance to practice thinking in English as well. My next and final tip is to be monolingual. Monolingual. Let me explain. So, one of the biggest game changers for me when I was learning French in particular was to move from using a bilingual dictionary, so French-English, to using a monolingual dictionary, French-French. So when I went to look up a word in French, it didn't translate to English. It gave me a definition in French. This was a critical step because it forced me to start thinking in French. Yes, it was more difficult. Yes, it took more time. It was an effort. But really, the change over several months was huge. So you won't make the change or transformation from thinking in your native tongue to thinking in English overnight, right? It just won't happen overnight. It takes time, it takes effort, but the rewards are huge. So maybe, right, you've taken the IELTS test several times, but you're stuck at the same level, maybe a band 6 or a 6.5. There may be several reasons for this, and today I'm going to look at the most common problem for being stuck, right? And actually, it's not that you need more technique, exam technique or tips, it's just that your overall level of spoken English is too low. So the English in your head might be great, but when you speak, it's just not the same. As a student once said to me, he said, you know, when I've got ideas in English, the English in my head, it's like driving a Ferrari. It's great, but then when I speak, it's like a car crash. So today I'm going to address that and help you improve your spoken English. With these 5 tips, I'm going to look at the following: how to learn speaking, how to automate your vocabulary, how to increase fluency, how to gain confidence, and how to make sure you're choosing the right tools to help you. So first of all, how to learn speaking, or how to learn how to speak. The most important tip here, I think, is to learn speaking by listening. Unfortunately, many students around the world learn speaking with books, by looking at words, by reading and reading aloud. And why? Well, probably because their teachers told them. And the reason their teachers told them is because they learned that at school too. But the world has changed. And unfortunately, education has not changed, but it needs to. And I think one reason is in the past, there was no access to the native speaker voice, right? But the world has changed. And unfortunately, education has not changed, but it needs to. Speaking came first. Writing was a way to capture what we say. And grammar is a way to capture what we speak. And it does a pretty good job, but it's not perfect. Learning by listening has the following benefits, right? First of all, you learn natural spoken English. You know that the language is spoken, not written. You learn pronunciation. You get the context, so you know how to learn, how to use the language when you're speaking. It's a no-brainer. You must begin by listening, right? And I said earlier, right, the world has changed. We are surrounded by native speaker texts or proficient speaker audio texts, videos, Netflix, YouTube. You can get it anywhere. Keith Speaking Academy, if you've heard of that. There are audios all over the world at the click of a button. So start using it. Learn your speaking by listening. If you learn the collocation, it just helps you become much more fluent. It's very simple when you think about it, right? When you learn words, one word, you have to think about putting them together. When you learn chunks, you don't have to think about putting the words together. You just think about putting the chunks together. How to gain confidence? Well, here, my tip for you is push your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is the area of doing things where you feel comfortable. So maybe you learn English by watching a film. You're comfortable. You read a book. You're comfortable. But then somebody says, well, listen, why don't you record your voice? Oh, no, I'm not very comfortable. No. But when you use English in the world, you are going to have to interact with other people, speak to strangers, be nervous, make mistakes, have other people sometimes laugh at your mistakes. It's going to happen, so get used to it. And believe it or not, when you do the IELTS speaking test, you do it with a real person. Yes, the examiners are real people, and you will have to get used to being nervous, get used to making mistakes in front of them, get used to those feelings of being uncomfortable. Hey, Keith, why am I not fluent in English yet? Good question. And many students ask me this question. So today I wanted to tell you why I think you may not be fluent in English yet and what you can do about it. Right. What influences fluency? Well, let's think about it. First of all, as you're speaking, right, finding the right word is going to affect your fluency. Your vocabulary. If your vocabulary is not big enough, or you're trying to use difficult words you don't fully know, or you're confusing different word families, economy, economic, economist, then that affects your fluency. So focus on your active vocabulary that you're really comfortable with to get a good score in vocabulary, but a better score in fluency. You repeat words and phrases in context and actually practice using them in different contexts. There is research that shows you need to see the word in at least four different contexts and to be using it in at least 3 or 4 different contexts before it becomes active. Let's move on and talk about other factors that influence fluency. Similar to vocabulary, grammar, right? When you're speaking and you're thinking about the correct grammar, is it I've been, have been to. As you're thinking about grammar, that affects your fluency as well, as you just saw. If you can automate the grammar, you can just use it much more fluently and focus on ideas and fluency when you're speaking. You're taking some grammatical structures and repeating them again and again and again until you automate them and become much more confident with them. Use it automatically, you can then start focusing on ideas and fluency and maybe pronunciation. Tip number 2 is I think you need to change that focus from words to phrases. I often call them chunks. In a recent interview with the polyglot Steve Kaufman, we talked about phrasing, which is the idea of thinking about phrases of language. Tip number 2 is I think you need to change that focus from words to phrases. I often call them chunks. In a recent interview with the polyglot Steve Kaufman, we talked about phrasing, which is the idea of thinking about phrases of language, 3 or 4 words together rather than individual words. If you can't pronounce sounds and words correctly, or it's difficult for you, that will affect your fluency. Likewise, word stress, sentence stress, intonation are all critical for getting good fluency. One of the key things, right, between kind of a band 6 and a band 7 and 8 is the long turn. Being able to speak for a long turn, a long sentence, maintaining or sustaining correct intonation, and also several sentences, so you've got coherent development of ideas, right? Pronunciation plays a key role, and particularly intonation. It really is important. So I think one of the key things that differentiates your 7 and your 8 is the intonation. It's getting the natural spoken English intonation. And if you can get that up on your pronunciation to a band 8, it's going to help immensely with your fluency. So why is being nervous a problem, right, in IELTS speaking? Well, first of all, because being nervous may force you to speak quietly. You lose your confidence. If you speak quietly, the examiner can't really hear you, and that will affect your score. So actually what you want is to control your nerves so that you can speak clearly, at a good pace, focus on accuracy and give answers which are on topic, answering the question, right? And so get the score that you want. So let's have a look at how we can do that. Prepare for the worst, but expect the best. So prepare for the worst means think about what's the worst case scenario, right? What's the worst thing that can happen, right? Are you going to explode and disappear? Are you going to have a heart attack? Probably not. You may get a 6 instead of a 7. Maybe that means I can't apply to university this year, or I can't immigrate this year. I have to wait another year. oh, that's terrible, and you're feeling sad about that and really, really bad, and maybe even crying about it. But preparing for that and thinking about all of the worst things that can happen, right? But then expect the best to happen. It's a question of focus. You have both. The best is that you actually get the score you need, that it goes swimmingly well, you enjoy the test, and you do really, really well. Practice being nervous. So I mean, put yourselves in situations where you're not comfortable, right? So if you're going to conferences or you're in classrooms with other students and teachers, put yourself in situations where you're not comfortable. So for example, asking questions. Normally you sit there quietly, raise your hand, ask a question. And being prepared is one of the best ways to tackle nerves, right? Because the more prepared you are, the less nervous you're going to be. If you want to go from 5 to 7, then book your test in 2 years' time, not 2 months' time, so that you've got time to prepare. In addition, there's preparation for the test, right? So practicing IELTS questions and answers is great preparation. Get familiar with the topics, and then there'll be fewer surprises on the day. The other thing is prepare your general English speaking skills and build up your flexibility, especially if you're aiming for a band 7. One of the keys is flexibility. You have to develop that so that whatever questions come, even strange questions about pens and pencils or fishing, then you can react and be flexible in your use of English to give confident answers. So build up that flexibility, help you prepare, be better prepared for the test, and you'll be less nervous. It is really important that you take ownership of your English. It's your English. It's you. It's a part of your personality. It's a part of who you are, right? Whether you're band 4 or band 7, it's your English, and it's something, when you have it, you should be proud of it, right? Almost don't think about comparing yourself and being evaluated. Put that aside. Just focus, right, on being proud. This is my English. This is the level I have. I'm proud of it, and I'm going to show the examiner. And he says, when you feel nervous, let the nerves be. Do you remember the Beatles, Let It Be? It was a very deep song, and it's about letting everything be. Is about being in the moment or being present now. And she uses this 3-3-3 approach, which is quite interesting, right? So you notice 3 things, and then 3 sounds, and then 3 parts of your body. Okay, so it only takes a few minutes, but wherever you are and you're starting to feel stress or anxiety, you look slowly and carefully at 3 different things. So for example, you might look at your computer and you look at it quite carefully, almost like you're looking at it for the first time ever, right? And then you look at another object, maybe the table. And you just observe it. And then a third object, maybe the window, maybe your phone. And then listen to 3 different sounds, right? I can hear the traffic. And you really pay attention to the sound, right? And then I can hear the neighbour upstairs. Let your emotions go. Just listen to the sound. They can be so noisy. Oh, and I can hear my wife's footsteps outside. So you listen to 3 sounds and then you focus on 3 parts of your body. Not looking, but feeling. So you may want to close your eyes and feel your hands. It's strange, right? Because you've probably never felt your hands before. You're feeling the energy inside, right? Or you can feel your feet. Feel your leg, your left leg. It's quite interesting, and you get so focused on that thing that your mind stops thinking, right? You can't do both at the same time. And that's how it works. It brings you into the present moment. 3, 3, 3. Just takes a couple of minutes. It can be really effective. Focus on communication, not showing off. Now, I know I do talk a lot about showing off your language in IELTS speaking. You want to show the examiner how good you can speak English. Correct. However, in the first 2 or 3 minutes, focus on communication, right? Not showing off fancy language. So, for example, if the examiner asks to tell me about your hometown. Well, I'm from Manchester. It's up in the north of England. It's quite a big city. It's quite a big or famous student city as well, actually, and I really like it. The next tip is share your emotions. And again, in a natural conversation, you want to share your feelings with the examiner, right? Or with whoever you're talking to. Unfortunately, what often happens in the test is students going to something some trainers call exam mode. A board comes down or a wall comes down and you become a bit robotic. The next tip is focus on the person, not the examiner. Have you ever met a celebrity? What often happens when you meet a famous person is in your head you have this idea of how amazing and big they are, and you're quite small. It's like, oh my God, it's Elton John, it's Prince William, oh, and it's amazing, right? And you can hardly speak. But when you meet these people, not all of them, but a lot of them just say, listen, I'm just a person. I'm just like you. I'm a normal person here in front of you. Right? This is a very quick tip, but do remember, actually, most examiners and most people who interview you, right, for whatever, want you to do well. They want you to show the best side of you, right? Most examiners want you to succeed. They want you to show how good your English is, right? They're not really setting traps, trying to trick you or catch you out. No, most of them just want you to communicate and show off your English, right? Remember that. Focus on the person, focus on communication, show your emotion, and remember they want you to to succeed. And so there you have it, a whole bunch of exciting tips and strategies to help you control your nerves in the IELTS speaking test. If you've got your test coming up soon, I really wish you the best of luck. Try out these tips, see if they work. Try them out in your everyday life as well, not only for IELTS speaking.